Hello, I'm Chris, this is Gross Models, and this is, let's call it part one. I'm pretty sure there's going to be more than one part to this, so let's call it part one of my build of the U-Wing Fighter and TIE Striker. And a couple of little tank things in there as well. So this is a Bandai kit, same as many of the Bandai Star Wars kits. It's pretty much a snap together kit, although you can obviously glue parts, which I would no doubt need to glue some bits to it. There's not much of interest on the box really, some reference pictures, nothing at all on the back. So I'll basically get into it and see what we've got. I'll cut away now and get the plastic off because nobody needs to hear all that. But basically we've got several sprues and an instruction sheet, as well as both stickers and water slides in these. So let's get the sprues out of the plastic and then I'll be back, so stay there. Happy you stayed, thank you. Right, let's have a look. It's been ages, it feels like absolutely ages since I've started a new kit. So this bit's going to be a little bit rusty and interesting. Right, we've got two stands, because there's two main ships in this kit. They both look identical. They're both labelled identical actually as SWB 15. So they're basically just the action stands, which I may or may not end up using. I'll probably use them for sort of display or whatever, but as has become tradition for me with these larger 144 Star Wars kits, I'm going to do some sort of diorama with it at some point once I've finished it. So let's have a look. We've got another sprue there, which seems to be the TIE, what is it, TIE Striker, which is the bendy wing sharp ones. Wings obviously in one piece each, so that's going to take some masking to get those painted up. Obviously the cockpit and tube. No pilot on that I can see. Obviously some clear parts as well. That must be the U-Wing, and the lasers, which I won't be using because they're pretty tacky. Right, then we've got, say, the decals and water slides, both theoretically identical, but one's just nicer to use than the other, so I'll obviously be going with the water decals on those, the water slides. On the bits that I don't paint, I'm not sure about the markings yet. I haven't decided on what to do with those yet, so that will come later. What have we got here? We've got, looks like the tank bits by the looks of it. Sort of top actually they're the same. Yeah, so we've got two the same with one extra bit on it. Must be extra bits for the TIE by the looks of it, maybe. Not sure. It'll all become clear. But those two bottom halves are obviously the same, so that's one tank and that's one tank. We'll figure that out when we go. And then we have a white sprue, which is basically the U-Wing. Nice to have the engines in one piece actually, that's quite nice. And we've got a couple of seated figures. We've got K2SO, K3, K something, SO, K, yeah, and the other pilot guy whose name escapes me immediately. And this is obviously a newer kit, so we don't get a standing figure because they're not allowed to make standing figures. We have a silhouette figure, which is a bit rubbish. I'll just put him up there with my TIE Fighter pilot. I won't bother painting him up quite yet, but those two will get painted because you might be able to see them through the canopies. So the wings again, mostly one piece each by the looks of it. So there's not a lot of bits in the kit, so it won't be taking a long time, but there are two, well technically four kits to build. So yeah, let's say we've got the marking, location and colour guide, obviously traditional grey main TIE Fighter with black or dark grey off black panels. The Y-Wing itself, U-Wing, sorry, U-Wing itself, mainly I say the off-white with the blue markings, a couple of little yellow bits that will no doubt be decals, and the pilot sitting in there as well. K2SO, I'm sure it's 2SO. Let's have a look and see what we can see. The instructions aren't a book, they're one fold out long page. which makes it lovely and easy to film. Thank you Bandai for that. The instructions are bilingual, mostly Japanese, but with obviously some English bits. Yeah, it doesn't tell you the parts list, it's just the sprues and the decals, and it tells you can use the stands for putting them on, and they just sit on the floor. So we've got basic instructions on how to do everything. You've got to check certain bits, make sure it looks like that, I think. Basically the base with the wings going on, they do pivot, they've got little pins that go through and pivot. You've got some sort of back engine thing. Oh, these are the other grey bits from the top of the tank thing. Continue on the other side. Yeah, then put the pilots in to a seat, put the top on, put the canopy on. Either canopy, so you've got the glass canopy or an open canopy there. So the glass one obviously will need painting up to cover that, or we've got the one with no window on it at all. I'll again figure out which one I'm going to use, but before I get to that stage, engine's going on, all sorted, easy, pretty straightforward. 4 engines go on, and then you've got the covers that go over there, or the landing gear, again depending on if it's going to be in flight or not, and lasers or not, which will be not, thank you very much. Yep, there we go. Yeah, so you can either use covers or take the covers off and put the feet on. I'll figure it out. So that's the main kit, is the U-wing. The TIE Striker is just a 1-page build. 2 sides go on, 2 ends go on, bottom bit, little detail bit, and then the wings go together. And the tanks are even less than a page build. Put the canisters on, put them on, put the sides on, put the guns on. So yeah, a pretty straightforward, theoretically quick build. The painting is obviously going to be the major job on these. So I'll get some bits together, start off with one of them. I don't know, I might start with the tank, ease myself in gently. So I'll get the parts off the sprue, ready to go, figure out paint colours and go from there. These are obviously sort of the colour that they are at the moment, sort of browny, dark brown basically. So I'll find a colour that's going to look good on those, get them off the sprue, and then we'll see about priming and painting. So I'll not bother showing you cutting off with nippers and everything else. I'm sure you've seen all that 100 times before, so I'll no doubt do it at some point later in the build, but for now I'm just going to get all the bits needed, which I think is pretty much this sprue. We've got a little pilot gunner trooper for sitting out the top of the sort of turret bit. That's quite cool. So I'll get them off, ready to go, and show you the assembly. I've got the bits for both tanks cut off because they're both exactly the same, so I might as well build them both at the same time. The one thing that's going to be different is you have an option for having the pilot sitting out, or the gunner, or whoever, the commander, sticking his head out the canopy or not. So I'm going to do one of each. So we've got all the bits. There's not a great deal to really worry about. There's 2 or 3 technically different things to paint on the kit. Basically I've got it all set out on the instructions. We have the canister itself. I'm not sure exactly what they are. They're some sort of I don't know, orange canisters basically. So that does matter which way around that goes. We get that the right way around. As I've said before, this is basically a snap kit, so as far as I can tell, most of it won't need any gluing. So I'm going to snap these together. Now the canisters themselves are orange. The paint list on the back I'll show you in a moment just shows them as being orange, 100% orange, with a touch of black. So I'm not entirely certain how you do 100% and a little bit more of something else, but so the canister itself is orange, but can then be put on after the fact. The only other thing that's different colours are the guns, and obviously the pilot. So what I'm going to do is put together the kit itself, because all of this bit can be easily assembled because it's all going to be the same colour. The front bits just go on like that, and then the side bits go on there, all snapping together without any worry, any need for glue, or indeed anything else. They go on there like that. So these were literally just cut off the sprue and so take the little nub marks just taken off. There we go. That's that side on there. So I'm not going to put the guns on because I need to do those in a different colour anyway. But I can put on the top canopy that has to go the right way round, that way round like that. But I'm not going to put him in there yet because he does obviously need to be a different colour. It's a stormtrooper, so he's going to be mostly white. So I'll get rid of him for now. That's that built. The canopy containers obviously will just snap on like that, and the guns will just snap on the sides as well. So the completed kit looks pretty much like that, but with these orange. So let me just move all of those bits to one side a minute and show you the colours. Now it obviously gives you nice pictures of everything, showing where all the decals go anyway. There's no decals on these. The only bit that's of note is the orange of those. Now actually it says down here, it's got a full list. It says the combat assault tank grey body should be 80% filled grey and 20% flat white. So basically it's a slightly light grey, which I'll mix up and do. Front body weathering in tan with a little bit of brown. So that's just the weathering on the front of it basically. The laser cannon in burnt iron, but I'll do them basically. And the container orange, 100% orange, 100% plus black, small dose. So orange just muted slightly. So I'm going to get these primed. I'm going to, what am I going to do? I'm going to prime the orange bit in grey and the rest of it in black, because I think that will give a better feel to the rest of it. I'll do him in grey as well. So I'll prime those in grey, prime those in black, and then basically get them painted up in the colours that I need. I'm going to build the other one as well exactly the same and get them covered, as I say. The only difference in that is somewhere I've got, I should have, the top canopy that's slightly different. I had it here a minute ago. Oh well, I'll find it in a minute. Basically it's the same as this, but with that folded over and shut down as one piece. So yeah, I'll dig that out. It's got to be here somewhere. If it's not, I have got another one sitting on the sprue, because obviously they give you 2 of each, so it might be that I'll have to dig out the spare one that I had, which is annoying, but there you go. That's the 2 sides, that's the guns for this one, that's the guns for that one, 2 sides, bottom and top. So no, oh well, I'll find it no doubt when I've cut the other one off. Actually I can feel something in the instructions there you go. There it is. Exactly the same as the other one, but closed instead of open. It's quite nice to have a bit of change. So I'll get that built up and get them primed and painted basically. See you in a bit. Post priming but pre-painting update. We've got the main body of the tanks primed in black, the canisters primed in grey, and the guns in black as well, and the little pilot commandery bloke in grey. Now I won't be spray painting him because he's tiny. I'll just be brush painting him. I'll be putting some black in recesses and then white on the armour panels. Pretty easy with that. The canisters are going to be the next thing I'm going to do. They need to be orange. Now I haven't got any Vallejo orange, something to pick up at some point. I have got some Tamiya orange, which I'm going to thin down using some X20 and blast that through the airbrush quickly onto these. Get them done out of the way. The tanks themselves, which as I say should be filled grey with flat white. I don't have any of that. I don't know what that is. So I'm looking at what I've got. I've got medium gunship grey, which does appear to be pretty much the right colour for that. If need be, I can add some white or black to change the tone of that a little bit. So that's that. The cannons, it says burnt iron. I'm not really sure. It's much the same as the grey, to be honest, in the pictures and the reference. So I think I'm just basically going to do those in the same grey, but I can brush paint or weather some irons and metallics onto them. So I'm going to get some painting done. Start with the orange and then the bodies of the tank. So I'll see you when that's done. So it's lots of painting been going on behind the scenes, and a little bit of improvements. The main bodies of the tank, I did go over lightly. I put some mahogany in with the gunship grey, and it gave a bit of a more sort of browny finish, which is closer to the artwork that I've seen in pictures and things. But I didn't do the guns. I left the guns in the sort of more neutral grey, which I think looks better. They match, they go in, but they're not quite the same, which is what I was going for anyway, what the instructions did say, to do them in a different colour, different tone. So I'm happy with how they come out. That's okay. I do obviously need to dirty them up and touch them up. The canisters themselves are nice and shiny in the orange, which is a bit too shiny. So I'm going to be using some Citadel Allen Oil shade, which is a wash basically. So that I need to basically liberally apply to all of it, and it will darken up details inside the edges there. Basically just going to cover this everywhere. If I had that recording of Ted saying slap it on, I'd be playing that now. That's basically what I'm doing. It's going to darken them all up and give a bit more emphasis to the shadows, the panelling and the other bits. I'll just do this one and then we'll compare the two. Obviously it needs to dry and work in, but instead of looking like that, it now looks like that. It gives it a more grounded feel. You can see a lot more detail in there as a used world thing, as Star Wars always is. So that's that. I do need to go in with some detailed paintwork on them as well, but I'm going to get the Allen Oil on first. The nice thing about this is you can always add more, so if need be I can go back in with some more of it once it's dried and I see what it actually looks like. I shouldn't think I need to add any more to it, but you never know. So that's that. Let me just get this last one done while I'm here talking. I might as well get it finished. There we go, that's that. Making sure it's all got some coverage, and then it will seep into the crevices and end up looking quite good. I think I will be doing that to the main bits of the tank as well, but I do need to do some more weathering to those as well. It did say in the instructions about weathering in, what does it say? Front body weathering, a little bit of tan with a little bit of brown. So I'll be doing a little bit of sort of lighter tan brownie weathering on that. That's those. What I was going to do now is the pilot himself, which is small enough that you can't really see. What I'm going to do is add the black. So I'm just using a plastic palette. Just going to get a little bit of black out, far too much black out because you only need very little bit, and with a very fine brush, so I can get some fine detail in there. I'm going to probably move off camera because I need to get my head down to it as well, and basically brush in. Let's see, I can do that, that's there, and if I go around the side here, right, hopefully you can see mainly what I'm doing in there without it knocking the camera too much, or it's got to knock the camera a little bit because, you know. Now, according to the art that I've been looking at on the instructions, somewhere, was it art? No, I think I found a still picture from the film from Rogue One, and it showed him having, obviously, the main trooper, sort of black under armour, as it were, but he did also have some sort of like a webbing belt thing. So I'm going to add that in there. Obviously, the bits of the visor, a couple of bits of detail on there, which I'll add in again because the white's obviously going to go over the top of all of that. So just getting in the edge, the joints between the armour on there. And then when I give the white over the top, hopefully it won't go completely over the top. I'll be able to paint that in just on the raised panels. And then that should at least leave darker bits that I can then go over again if I need to. So that's pretty much the dark, let's say, the under armour pieces, what I needed to get on there. So when that's dry, I'll get the white over the top, and then some gentle weathering with tan on the fronts of those. So see you in about a moment. Right, almost there. I've just pushed the canisters on in place. After the null oil went on them, they brought up the details quite well. I've put a few little detail marks on the back there, as came in from the still I nicked from the film. Little grey bits and little lighter grey sort of details on there. And the pilot is almost done as well, or the commander type bloke. A couple of bits of white I need to touch up on there before I attach him on. The last thing I'm going to do is a little bit of dry brushing. I'm going to use some gunmetal, and come back out again. Dry brushing, basically, I'm sure everyone knows, you get some paint on the brush, get most of it off on some tissue, and then you can just lightly, it just picks out the edges. If you're careful and just use the edge, so sort of randomly around all of it and the canisters, just where would happen. So a little bit here and there, just to add a little touch of scuffing and wear. Now these are like a hover tank, so they wouldn't be rubbing along the ground, but things are still going to pick up and scratch and knock. So there's that. I'm just going to get, I say, a few bits of this done with that around the hatch, things like that, where it would wear and say the commander's getting in and out and things like that. Then I need to do a little bit of sort of weathering and bluing on the guns, which I shall do after I've got this bit done. And then once the commander goes back in, that's pretty much going to be completed for this part, or these tanks anyway. So I'll get these done and come back and show you the last bit. And the last bit is using some of the Tamiya Weathering Master powders, just to bring some life to these guns. So what I need to do is I'm going to use some of the, what do they call them, burnt blue and burnt red. Just break up some of the powder from there and just basically brush them on just to the tips of the guns, obviously where they've been firing they've been heating the metal a little bit, and that's going to discolour it slightly. So I'm just getting some of this on. Not really coming out very well on camera. It is a more subtle effect than anything else, basically. And then on the red, I'm just going to get a little bit of that, perhaps just on the tips, just to change the shade of that a little bit. A lot of this probably isn't coming out very well on camera at all, but that should be about it. A little bit more here and there, and get the pilot on, and then that'll be done. So I'll see you for the final part of the build of these tanks very soon. And once we get the pilot, he's not a pilot, he's like a commander type person, sitting in his seat at the top there, just like that. That is this build complete. This build of the U-wing that hasn't actually had any U-wing in it at all. I've deliberately done a couple of the canisters heavier weathered than the others. I believe, and I would assume, that these are actually just, you know, not joined together. They're 3 separate canisters, so it made sense that they're not all the same level of wear. So yeah, I've finished it. I'm happy with them. They look quite nice. They're not fully weathered and dirty. I'll be doing that when I do the diorama for all of the kits. So I'll be using again some of the sort of sand and light sand weathering pastels over the top, but once they're integral to the whole thing. But I'm happy with them. They came out quite well. I've decided that this is going to be the end of this video. The next one, I'm going to be doing the TIE Striker from the same kit, which is, say, another relatively quick build. So that I'll be doing as same as these, build and paint in one episode, and then we'll get to the meat of the entire thing, the actual U-wing. So thanks for watching. Hope you've enjoyed, I say, the U-wing that isn't actually a U-wing, and I'll see you soon for the next part of the U-wing build, which isn't actually a U-wing either. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.